Well, hi there and welcome along to another edition of What's the Word? I'm Tom Malone. This week joined by Brendan Duke down the end. How are you, Duke? You alright?
Good form, Tom. Glad to be back.
Good stuff. Nicola McGeady from our sponsors Ladbrokes. You well?
Yeah, all good. I seen Dukey for the first time outside of the What's the Word panel at the Curragh, and he was wearing a very fetching Panama hat and
very
summer
kind of
attire.
Yeah, summer wardrobe
Surprised he
was
didn't
out.
win best dressed.
Yeah, not that much. Sorry, I'm sorry, Jill. That was a bit much, wasn't it? Look, that was way hard.
I mean, you are a man who can comment on fashion. Tom,
So anyone else would be mean.
I'll take. Yes, I did have a man who used to wear lime green trousers telling me this is fashion, kid. He was from Clare, so I didn't take any notice of him, but I would.
Okay, fair enough. And Mark Boylan is back as well. You well, Mark?
Grand, no Panama hat, but I'm grand.
No Panama hat. Well, speaking of sort of garish attire, I guess is a seamless link. Terrible news, of course, reaching us today. This is Friday about the passing of John McCririck, an absolute legend of the game. A one-off. Nicola, you worked with him quite recently as well.
Yeah, we worked with him a lot over the years, and I have to say he was always such a pleasure to work with. Like, you could learn so much from him. His knowledge was just out of this world. I mean, aside from being this huge character you've seen on TV and this showman, he also was a brilliant journalist behind it, and he put everything into his work. I remember at Cheltenham, not this year, but the year before, we did this like Cheltenham taxi where myself and John sat in a taxi around Cheltenham and gave our tips and stuff. It was good. You had to watch it. I'm trying to describe it, but you know, he wasn't feeling well that day. But he still insisted that he was showing. We were like, if you're not up for it, don't come. He was like, no, I'll be there. And he did as many takes as it needed to get it right and how he wanted it. So, yeah, listen, he put racing on the map, no doubt. He was the biggest face of racing broadcasting of his generation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, huge star, of course, on action this weekend as well. We're going to get the return of Enable. Mark, do you think she's vulnerable?
At the price I'd like to take her on, but from a racing point of view, I really hope she wins. I think it's the sort of race that it just needs to come out and kick you in the face sort of thing, spark this flat season into life. You know, there's been a few false dawns, I think, so far this year, and I really hope that she can bring us back to life.
Do you think we need Enable just for a bit of a story on the season overall, Dukey?
Yes, it would be no harm because the classic generation are looking a little bit disappointing. There is still Japan, etc., but it's a bit thin. So if she and Sia Class were to go back and
head to head,
repeat their duel in the Arc, that would be very exciting. So
Brilliant.
Absolutely, superstar filly. Favourite filly you've ever seen? Horse, careful, Mark?
From a flat point of view, maybe not the most talented ever, but I mean the Fugue was a filly you had a great time for.
Okay.
Very talented, maybe not top class against the boys, but still won the Irish Champion Stakes. Always a great degree of excitement seeing her with her racing style. She could come with that turn of foot. I remember nearly being in tears watching Magician run her down in the Breeders' Cup turf, but I always had a soft spot for her. Misty for me, another two. It was
good stuff.
Nice
I was convinced you were going to say any part of that. Go on, what are your thoughts, Nicola?
I don't know if I've told you this before, but when I went to the Melbourne Cup, did I tell you?
Have you been to the Melbourne Cup?
Yeah.
Do you know who else has been to the Melbourne Cup? David Jennings has been to the Melbourne Cup. Sorry, go on.
But it was crazy to see the hysteria Winks caused in Australia, like more so than One Direction would walking down the street here. She is just a legend. She won the Ladbrokes Cox Plate when I was there, and just the atmosphere she created. Herself and Black Caviar are probably the two kind of horses that I've witnessed that have created the biggest buzz.
Fair enough. And Dukey?
probably Bosra Sham for me.
Oh, I love Bosra Sham.
You love Bosra
I'm
Sham.
just so obvious with my answers.
No, I mean, come on, we're giving you credit. We're just showing our age here, that's all.
Well, yes, you see, this is the thing about when you ask these questions. People normally give them from their golden years, which this was mine, late teens, early 20s. But yeah, I could definitely see Wings. You could even say Zenyatta, another great film. Yeah. I'm keeping it local, though. And I will stay with Bosra Sham, who looked, I never saw her in the flesh, but she looked some specimen on television. Around in a vintage era, beat some top class horses, beat Halling, beat Timarita, probably should have beaten Pilsudski.
Oh, I don't know. I watched it back quite recently, actually. And I actually think Pilsudski probably would have won anyway. Although poor old Kieran Fallon got an awful doing in the press that time, didn't he?
He did.
The Bosra Shambles, they called it.
Yes.
I thought it was a good headline. Right, let's move on to the actual action then. How do they bet for Enable? The Carl Eclipse, of course, going to post at 3.35.
She is now odds on at 10 to 11. We are still top price at 10 to 11, and it's a price we're happy to lay. Listen, her record speaks for itself. And Frankie, you know, says she's in good form. The trip doesn't seem to be worried. And obviously, you know, people will worry she's been off a while and it's very hard to win a Group 1 first time out. And they're probably part of the reason we are happy to take her on. And the fact that maybe the ground won't be ideal. There is questions over the trip, although John Gostin said in the Racing Post today that there won't be. But she's going to be hugely backed, and she's already been hugely backed all week, backed into from 6-4 into 10-11. And given Frankie Dettori's form at the minute, you know, everybody at Sandown tomorrow will probably get behind her. They're not touching the others. Magical's in there at 100-30. Regal Reality still improving, is 11-2. I think Telecaster would be my selection at 10-1. Listen, I'm going to draw a line behind through the Derby flop. I just think, you know, it got wound up before the race, and you know, it was made a big impression in the Dante, and I think I'm going to give Telecaster another chance. One
line I'm going to pick you up on there, you said nothing for anything else. I think the each way pigs have absolutely had their fill on Magical, because I think she was 9-1 or 9-2, and she's now 130. So cut in when they got the 8 runners. So
yeah,
absolute thievery on their part. Did you take part in that, Mark? You say you're going to oppose her at this price?
Yeah, I'm going to come down on the same side as Nicola with Telecaster as well. Like I like to favour the improving horse, and I like the sound of Telecaster. I just Magical is a very, very tough, genuine filly, but I'm not sure whether she is totally Group 1 class against the boys. Now I know her biggest threat is a mare, and the mare is very, very good, but just I'd say Enable isn't straightforward, and I think there's better horses that you can back this weekend around the even money mark rather than loading into this one. And I just think Telecaster, Nicola mentioned, his race was gone before the tapes went up at Epsom, and I think that sort of dynamic where you've got to pray down towards the start, it probably just got to him mentally. This won't be as much of a test. A mile and a quarter, he's plenty quick enough for it. You can just see him now taking advantage of the £7 he gets from Enable and giving her a right race.
Okay. What about you, Juki?
Well, I was very worried about the preliminaries for Telecaster. If I saw him before the race and he was behaving himself, I would definitely chance a few quid in them. But sitting here now, I think he'll blow his top again. I think it's too soon. So I would say Enable, despite the fact that it's a bad each way 8-runner race. So obviously the percentage plays to back something each way. Magical, for example, I think she'll win.
So what loads of people are actually backing, Tom, is Enable to do basically follow the same path as last year. She's 5-1 to do the double with the Arc and the Coral Eclipse, and 12-1 to do Coral Eclipse, King George, and the Arc. So both of them we've seen a lot of support.
Yeah, that's not a massive surprise. I mean, Mark, what kind of price would you want for Enable then? Before you say you're going to buy, this is pure hypothetical because you're not going to get it.
It's not an issue yet, but I just think when you come here with a fitness concern, regardless of how ready or how positive the vibes are with her, you have to come here and say that we haven't seen her since November and been in America and had a grueling race where she was pushed to her limit. And I'm not saying that she's missed intended targets since. It's not the sort of horse that I'd want to get involved with at the price. You'd want to be giving me a nice price, and I don't even know what to put a figure on it. It wouldn't be realistic to put a figure on it. I just know that I want to take her on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just being greedy.
Pushing her.
All right, that's fair. Right, down along the line. Go on. You are with Enable, Juki.
Yes, I'm with Enable. I'm a little bit concerned about her missing Ascot, but it didn't seem to be anything serious. It was just they just decided to miss it. Whereas last year they never had it right. So I think you'll have her relatively spot on, working back from the Arc.
I love Enable as well, but I'm just going for a bit more value at Telecaster each way.
Okie doke.
Likewise.
And you're with Telecaster each way. Let's move on to the Coral Charge, who gets the card underway at 10-2. Group 3 contest. Tight enough for favouritism here, Nicola?
Yeah, Gareth has just become favourites since we had a good bit of money on Wednesday, backed into 100-30. Obviously, it's his first start for Charlie Hills, who won the race 2 years ago with Batash. Now, obviously, Gareth is in the same class, but he comes here off the back of 2 wins, one at York most recently, and is less exposed than some of the other contenders. Sergei Prokofiev's in there at 7-2. Then you've got Pocket Dynamo 10-1, and you definitely can't underestimate any of Robert Cowell's horse. He's the sprint king. He's, as I said, 10-1. But probably one of my best bets of the weekend would be Curious. She won a listed race over course and distance, and off that run I think looks capable of stepping up here and is in there at 12-1 and also drawn well, which is very important in this race in stall 6.
And I'm really glad you didn't fall into complete David Jennings territory there and use a terrible pun. So I think that was well done on your part. What about you, Juki? Who do you like in this one?
When I was drawn to Caspian Prince, the first thing I saw was the drawn 8, so that's a worry in Sandown. We don't like that, except for the fact that there's no competition for the lead. This is a very dangerous horse to let loose on the lead. So I thought he'd jump out from stall 8, move across, bag the rail, and I mean, the first 2 runs this season were dismal, but it was much more like it in the Dash the last day. And on his form last year, which he could be returning to, he should be favoured. I thought 5 to 1 was a big price.
Yeah, fair enough. Who are you with in that?
I was thinking along similar lines. I came down on Muthmere in the end, but I do fancy the older brigade over the up and coming horses. You know, I likewise, Nicola was saying with Curious, soft ground was mentioned as essential to the chances last time. I'm just going to be different tomorrow. I'd rather go with Muthmere. You're tried and tested, loves the speed. He's a real speed ball, second in it last year. Whereas you're coming in here, Sergei Prokofiev, I don't trust him. I find him very hard to get a grip of really what he is.
He's going to win one of these races at like 10 or 12 to 1 when he's been stuffed
really
in
well.
5 of them at favourite, isn't he?
I'm not going to keep paying to find out when though, so I'm going to side with Muthmere instead. So
you're going with
Muthmere.
Muthmere, that's fair enough. Right, on to the Lancashire Oaks at Haydock at 240. Nicola, how do we bet for that?
You want to speak to these guys?
Yeah, we'll go with Juki first. Go on. Who
Well,
do you fancy Lancashire Oaks?
the betting is very tight, as you'd imagine. Dramatic Queen just a half a length in front of NBR the last day. And the last I looked, it was 5 to 2 and 11 to 4 in favour of Dramatic Queen. Normally what happens in these situations is the horse who was heavily backed the last time goes off a shorter price. There's not much between them, but on a nominal value selection, I don't think NBR will be going off 11 to 4, so I'll tip her, but I thought it was a very tough
Now
race.
9 to 4 from 11 to 4,
okay.
by the way.
So are you at 9 to 4? You still think it's a selection?
That's why he was late coming in. He was in the shop and up here. Yeah.
Stopped in every shop between here and there.
But maybe I could just pass on this race.
Okay. Right, okay.
Do you want the odds now?
Yeah,
Sorry,
well,
I'm a
9 to
bit
4
more
the field, isn't it?
Yeah, Classics 11 to 4, Dramatic Queen is 100 to 30, and High Garden 6 to 1, 10 to 1 after that. But yeah, favourite is being well backed as we speak.
Yeah, by Brendan Duke, that's why he was late. What about you, Mark?
Is it 10 to 1, Naila? That'd be right.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think I'd take a chance on her. Look, stamina is going to be a question mark here, but this is a really funny race. And to be fair, I thought the race the Dramatic Queen one was a watery Group 3. This is a really watery Group 2. Mark Johnson horses, they're hard to predict, but you're getting a double figure price about a filly who is tough, will probably be out there punching away from the front. Second in a Group 3 last week to Sun Maiden. I just take a chance on her. The stamina bringing out a bit of improvement up to 1.5 miles, but it is a question mark, but you get a bit of value for finding out.
Yeah, absolutely, that's fair enough. Into the Old Newton Cup, you like one in the Old Newton Cup, Juki, the 3:15 from Haydock.
Well, I like the favourite.
Yeah?
So he's 7 to 2, and he's got a wide draw, and he's running against 16 horses. That's the bad news. The good news is he's got a massive class edge. He's a group horse in a handicap. Good winner in York the last day. The second is a seriously progressive horse. Avarians went and ran well in Ascot as well. I think he'd be okay. He likes to take a handy position. I think he'd be able to move across from the draw, and he won't be too wide. And I don't think he'll go off 7 to 2, despite the fact that it looks short on paper.
So who's the selection?
First 11, much the best.
First 11.
Well, you're right, because first 11's 100 to 30.
Well, that's marginal. No, that's marginal.
Another reason he was late.
Potato.
Yeah. First 11, something for you in the...
Wouldn't disagree with that. Brennan said first 11, exactly what I was thinking.
That's fair enough. On to the action at Nace. You like one there as well in the 245, Juki.
Oh, Nikita, I need you so. Nikita Kane has never ridden a winner, but I imagine Nikita's a girl's name, is it? Yes, this is a really good chance. She's only had 7 rides, so the short step's got a bit of love from the assessor. He's down to 70, which means he gets into a 45 to 70. Inexperienced rider, but the horse will basically ride himself. He just jumps out, he usually hits the lid, sets his own fractions in front, and actually, despite the fact of being 16 runners, not a hell of a lot of competition for the lead. Bagged the rail. Nikita will know her job, and it'd be very hard to pass in this grade short step.
Yeah, that's a fair. I mean, rated 93 or something at once upon a time was written Mick Shannon. So tumbling down the ratings. Anything else for you in the Nace card, Mark?
One at Nace is actually second reserve. If it gets into the 505 Lyrical Attraction, Colin Keane down to ride it. Just think it's better. The mark of 64 should be winning races before the summer is out. The other one at Belliostown in the 440. Amor Veradero bumped into Walking in Memphis, and by God, there was nothing going to beat Walking in Memphis that day at Downpatrick. Don't think there's a similar calibre of animal here against it, and I think Amor Veradero in the 440 at Belliostown will take the beating.
Good stuff. Right, let's move on to the Sunday action. Your favourite? What's your favourite race of the day on Sunday, Brendan?
The Prix Jean Prat. You could argue it's the only race of the day on Sunday.
Nicola has the betting anyway for the Prix Jean Prat.
Yes. Well pronounced. Too Darn Hot, 6 to 4 favourite. Obviously, Too Darn Hot's been struggling this season. Second in the Dante, second in the Irish 2000 Guineas, and then third in the St James's Palace. But this step back to 7 furlongs should definitely suit. Obviously, won the Dewhurst last season at that distance. So you know, you could just say they've probably been running him beyond his trip. So I think 6-4 is going to be popular tomorrow. Space Blues is biggest threat at 11-4 for Charlie Appleby, but it's really a 2-horse race.
Yeah, right. 6-4, too darn hot. Mark.
No, not a fan of the horse. I think he's been caught up with physically by the 2-year-olds last year. They've caught up with him physically, and mentally I have to question him. And I don't like being deliberately negative on a horse, but I wasn't impressed with how he saw it was raced at Ascot. I think if you're taking 5-4 here, 6-4, whatever it is, you have to question yourself big time. For me, Space Blues is not as classy an animal, but might just be able to get the job done. I'm not fully at length with what the French form equates to, but obviously the French filly came over and won the Coronation Stakes, beat Hermosa. You know, I would have respect for them, but I think Space Blues is a quality performer. But for me, too darn hot. He could be a place.
Have you backed too darn hot at all this season? I've been stung badly.
Back to the Dante. Back to the Dante. But it's a head thing rather than a heart thing. Because I had been in reserve in judgment on him. I thought at the Curry I'd give him another chance, because even with the front runner bias, perhaps at that meeting. But oh my God, I was sickened with him the last day. I thought he had every chance and just wouldn't go by. So, you know, he's going to have to prove it to me. And not that when he goes to Stuttgart and have any questions about, you know, my approval, but I mean,
you won't be making it on the brochure.
Myself, I'd be surprised if he won the Group 1. That's just my opinion now. But I hope he proves me wrong, because he was a class horse last year. But just I have to question him how he's really trained on.
I think the point physically definitely holds water. What about you, Juki?
Well, Tom,
6-4, too darn hot.
Well, you'll be familiar with the phrase "talent borrows, genius steals." So I'm just going to plagiarise the boy Boylan there. This is a watery Group 1, so you'd be thinking 6-4, too darn hot. But he looked irresolute to me at Ascot. I would completely agree with that, and I just couldn't back a horse that I don't think's putting it all in. So I had a look down at this Munitions, who his comeback worked out pretty well actually, and the second went on and ran well in the French Guineas. He himself ran in the French Guineas, but on heavy ground. Son of Warfront, not his bag. So back on better ground here, 10-1, legitimate each way play against the vulnerable Fav.
Vulnerable Fav, okay, so no love for too darn hot at all. Elsewhere on Sunday, just looking at Limerick, actually the 2-year in agreement, so whoever wants to jump in first on the 20-1 at Limerick.
Sure. Latin 5 should win, shouldn't he, Juki?
Should win. It was just the trip did from Undercarrow, wasn't it?
Trip is ideal now.
Trip is ideal.
So 20-1, Limerick, Latin Fire.
Yeah,
will win.
Should win. Yeah.
You've calmed down since the cameras come on. Will win a minute ago.
No, listen, should do. Not the strongest made. The only danger you wouldn't know is the Jessie newcomer, and her newcomers have been on fire. 2-year-old fillies. As long as there's no major market support, I'd be happy to steam into Latin 5.
Fair enough. Elsewhere on the Limerick card, a couple more selections. You got one in the 255, Cheeky.
Yes, well, the Latin 5 is going to be short, so I'll stick him in a double with another horse who's going to be short. Fit for Function. He's in savage form, great outstage with the the triple F, should I say. And his second in Goran has been boosted since Handicapper hasn't gone mad, basically running against a field of out-of-form rivals here. Should be just out and gone, good night. Stick him in a double with the Latin Function.
Latin Function, indeed. Yeah, I'm not going there. Port Lions, he's one you like in the 20-2 mark.
Yeah, I was sweetening with the car there last week. Just didn't go right for him in the sense that he's had a lot of traffic problems all around and couldn't get into the clear. And by the time he doesn't really pick up and zip on straight away, and the race has just got away from him. Only beaten 2.5 lengths in the end. But for me now, he's still on a nice mark. It's a 7 furlong rated race, taking on your old pal Geological. But no, I think he's got a proper chance. 220 at Limerick, Port Lions.
Port Lions, good stuff. Right, time to get our best bets then of the weekend is look forward to. So go on. Traditional Trixie time, Juki.
Traditional Trixie, I will nap in the 3:15 Haydock first 11, and I will stick him in a Trixie with Caspian Prince in the 150 Sandown and Enable in the 3:35 Sandown.
Yes, 3:35 Sandown, yeah. Nicola?
I'm a fan of Curious, as you heard, in the Coral Charge. I like Lush Life in the Coral Challenge for Jamie Spencer, and then I do think Enable will win, although I did say Telecaster was the each way value. Sorry, I needed to get an extra one in there. I'm being greedy.
Fair enough. Mark, best three for the weekend?
I'm going to keep it all on home soil. Belliostown 4:40 on Saturday, Amor Veradero, Limerick 1:20 on Sunday, Latin 5, and the 2:20 at Limerick on Sunday also, Port Lions.
Good stuff. My best bet of the weekend is Too Darn Hot, the Prix Jean Prat. I think he can bounce back. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week with more What's the Word.